So let's start by talking about what is Xamarin and how it can help you build Android and iOS apps that share C# code. So Xamarin is this company that was acquired by Microsoft in 2016 and that has a list of services that, on their own words, allow developers to build mobile applications easier, faster, and more efficient. And it's true. For example, one of their services, which is called Test Cloud, allows you to test your mobile applications, both Android and iOS, on real devices that are available through the cloud. So you have access to a ton of different devices, real, actual physical devices, through the internet, which is great for you to test your applications. There is also Xamarin Insights, which allows you to get information about how your users navigate through your app and if they're encountering any bugs that need to be fixed so you can improve your application. And finally, there is Xamarin.forms, probably the most famous part of Xamarin, which allows you to build Android and iOS applications by sharing C# code. And the Xamarin platform can actually be divided into Xamarin Classic and Xamarin.forms. And we're going to cover the differences between one and the other in the coming lectures. Right now, all you have to do is that Xamarin platform is the part of Xamarin that we're going to be focusing on. And that this is the one that will allow you to build Android and iOS applications using C#. And not only that, the Xamarin platform apps that you will be building will actually be native applications. This is different from what other cross-platform development tools do. You will actually be able to build entirely native applications for both Android and iOS. Native in the sense that you will actually have native user interfaces, because everything that you're going to be doing from Xamarin, whether it's from Xamarin Classic or Xamarin.forms, will be rendered as native controls once they are on Android or iOS. So these will actually be native user interfaces. They will look exactly the way they are supposed to look, and they will look exactly the way they would look if you were to build these interfaces on Android Studio or Xcode for Android and iOS respectively. Also, you have access to the native APIs. So whatever you can do with Java or Kotlin on Android, or with Swift and Objective-C on iOS, you will be able to do on Xamarin using C#. And because of these two first points, you get the third one, which is performance. You get native performance. Your apps will work as if they were native, because they are. And the best thing is that not only are these apps going to be native, you will actually be able to share your logic between Android and iOS. So you only need to code your C# logic once and share it with Android and with iOS. And even in the case of Xamarin.forms, you will be able to have shared user interfaces. So you design your application once, or you code the user interface once, and it will run on Android and iOS. Again, with native controls, with native user interface. And what may be even better than this is that Xamarin is entirely free. So if you have a Windows computer or a Mac computer, you're practically good to go. Xamarin is free for you to use if you are a small team. But the reality is that the definition for small teams, at least by Microsoft, is kind of broad. So you will actually be able to use Xamarin for free if any of these points are true for you. So if you have a team with any amount of users, but that is developing apps to be released under an approved open source license, you can use Xamarin for free. Or if you have a team that again has any number of users that is developing extensions or components for Xamarin or for Visual Studio, you can use Xamarin for free. And this can be teams that are very big, not necessarily the small teams, but if you're using Xamarin to build open source licensed apps, or for extensions or components for Xamarin and Visual Studio, you can use Xamarin for free. And also, if you're using Xamarin, again, if your team is of any number of users and is using Xamarin to build applications that are part of a training or academic research, you can use Xamarin for free. If none of these three first points are true for you, well, if your team is of up to 5 individuals, you can still use Xamarin for free no matter what you're building. So really the question is, when do you have to pay for Xamarin? Well, if you're an enterprise, by the definition of Microsoft, which is that you collectively with your affiliates have more than 250 computers or users, or you have more than $1 million in annual revenues, that is $1 million or its equivalent in your own currency, then you are an enterprise. Now, if you're an enterprise, but are using Xamarin to build open sourced licensed applications, or are using Xamarin for training or academic research, you can still use Xamarin for free. So mainly you would have to be an enterprise by the definitions that we just said, not using Xamarin for these purposes, to have to contact Microsoft to actually pay them to use Xamarin. I suggest you go check the license terms for Visual Studio, which will allow you to understand in more detail when do you have to pay for Xamarin, and you can do that in this link. This link is also going to be in the resources for this lecture. So now that we know a little bit more about what Xamarin is, in the next lecture, we're going to talk about why you should use Xamarin.